Hawkeyes still fight to bowl eligibility? Well, first things first, a Northwestern team that has won 3 straight matchups in Kinnick Stadium. We'll get to the Northwestern Iowa preview, your Northwestern Iowa preview, everything you need to know about the big matchup on ESPN2 this weekend. But first, a reminder, check out our sponsor, Under the Kitchen, Randy Engel, with authentic Hawkeye artwork, whether we're talking about the wrestling world, the football world, basketball. Randy doing great stuff. Busy guy down there in Mitchellville, but serving Hawkeye Nation everywhere. Check out Under the Kitchen on Facebook for more details. So, the Hawkeyes and the Wildcats on ESPN2 this weekend. Iowa fighting for bowl eligibility, sitting at 3-4 on the season, taking on what may be the worst team in the Big Ten Conference. Northwestern is a disaster. Ever since that win against Nebraska, this is what they've done. They've lost to Duke, lost to Southern Illinois, lost to Miami, Ohio, lost to Penn State, lost to Wisconsin, and lost to Maryland. If Iowa loses this game on Saturday, I can't even imagine what the postgame show is going to be like. Mayhem in Iowa City, and rightfully so. Listen to the offensive numbers for Northwestern. They start off against Nebraska over in Ireland week 0, put up 528 total yards against Nebraska. They're pushing Nebraska around in the trenches. Seemingly have a really, really good offensive line. Helinski at quarterback, playing great football for the Wildcats. He's mobile, a guy who's making really nice throws, albeit against a Nebraska defense that we knew to be subpar. But 528 total yards against the Huskers. Ever since then, over the next 4 weeks, their total yardage numbers went down. 511 total yards against Duke, 380 against FCS Southern Illinois, 364 against Miami, Ohio from the MAC, 210 yards against Penn State. 210 yards against Penn State. Now, they have put up some yardage against the likes of Wisconsin and Maryland, although a lot of the yards against Wisconsin came in garbage time. 342 yards against Wisconsin, 358 against Maryland. But again, they've lost every one of those games. Their one win this year came against Nebraska. So this is obviously a must-win. Pat Fitzgerald's not on the hot seat. We understand that. We talked with Bradley Locker of SB Nation over on our show with Mark Rogers on Tuesday afternoon. And the general consensus is Pat Fitzgerald's got a long way to go before he's on the hot seat, simply because of the job that he's holding down at Northwestern. It's just not one of those jobs that's going to be quick trigger like Wisconsin is. Even though we didn't think Wisconsin was either. Northwestern, totally different animal. They're coming. This will be the second straight abysmal year. I would think after next season, if this continues, that Pat Fitzgerald would have some serious questions to answer. But the point is, this is not a must-win for Northwestern. Pressure is on Kirk Ferentz and the Hawkeyes. Now, if Kirk Ferentz and Iowa loses this game, Kirk's not going anywhere, but the pressure will just mount on his son, Brian. Now, here's the deal about Northwestern. We think of Northwestern as being kind of the miniature version of Iowa. They have won 3 straight games inside Kinnick Stadium. This is their first trip to Iowa with an actual crowd in the stadium since 2018. Of course, they played there in 2020. Iowa blows a 17-0 lead. Brian Ferentz calls 50 pass plays for Spencer Petras. Iowa blows the 17-0 lead and loses to Northwestern, and that was the part of the 0-2 start in 2020, which Kirk Ferentz, got to give him credit, found a way to turn that season around. Incredible. They end up at 6-2 on the year. They have not faced Northwestern inside Kinnick since then. They also lost in 2018 inside Kinnick Stadium, a game they absolutely should not have lost. But Northwestern has been opportunistic in this series, just like they've been opportunistic in the Big Ten West. Heck, they've won 2 of the last 4 Big Ten West titles. Incredible. Northwestern defensively, they're going to allow rushing yards. If Iowa can't run the ball against Northwestern, then they can't run the ball against anybody. Listen to the numbers for Northwestern defensively, giving up rushing yards. They gave up 221 rushing yards against Duke, 216 against Miami, Ohio, 220 against Penn State, 193 against Wisconsin, 257 against Maryland. Now, that's no guarantee that Iowa's going to be able to run the football, because Iowa traditionally, even though the national narrative is that Iowa wants to ground and pound, Iowa does not traditionally run the ball effectively. That's just a fact. Northwestern ranks near the bottom of the conference in total defense. They rank near the bottom of the conference in scoring defense. They're also near the bottom of the conference in scoring offense and total offense. This is not a good football team right now, folks. Now, Brendan Sullivan, I'm assuming, is going to be starting this game on Saturday. Honestly, his efficiency numbers weren't terrible. He was 18 to 24 against the Terrapins, but he did throw 2 picks. So Iowa's defense should be able to feast on an inexperienced quarterback and an offense that's just not very efficient in general. But again, Northwestern, the underdogs here, Iowa favored. Last check, they're favored by 11. Got to win this game if you want any chance to get to 6-6. And right now, I'm leaning towards there's a better chance of Iowa being 5-7 than there is Iowa being 7-5. I don't think that's breaking news to anyone. I think there's a much better chance that Iowa loses 3 of their final 5 games than there is that Iowa wins 4 of its final 5 games. But this one is a must win. What kind of a crowd will be at Kinnick? That will be interesting as well. Mid-afternoon game. We're supposed to have beautiful weather on Saturday here in Iowa. It will be interesting to see. But again, right now, Northwestern underdogs by 11 inside Kinnick Stadium. And one of the lowest over-unders that I can remember, I think, in maybe history of college football. Perhaps the lowest in the history of college football. I'll be releasing my Week 9 picks here in the coming hours. We'll be releasing those picks later on today. Here, I'm recording this on Thursday the 27th. A reminder, following the game on Saturday, it's Iowa postgame right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Stay tuned.